What's up, everybody? It's your boy Melv here in our classic review, and today I'm reviewing the 2007 horror film Dead Silent, directed by James Wan. And this is a movie that this should get more recognition because it was actually released from Universal Studios. And if you don't know what the name is, maybe this poem might refresh your memory. Beware the stare of Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls. And if you see her in your dreams, make sure you never ever scream, or she'll rip your tongue off at the seam. Does that poem ring a bell, anyone? But before we begin, did you subscribe? Did you hit the bell? If so, make sure you don't scream unless you want your tongue ripped off by a phantom ventriloquist seeking revenge on those who murdered her. Let's begin, shall we? So yeah, this was released in 2007, directed by James Wan. If you recognize the man, he's the guy behind Saw, and also of the Conjuring franchise as well. And this is one movie that should get more recognition because from all the films like he did, from Saw, The Conjuring, this is one that I like more because it's more like a ghost story than like torture, like with with Saw and it's kind of similar to The Conjuring, except this one's way more deeper. Except there's no happy ending. But yeah, let's begin, shall we? So the movie takes place at the home of James Ashton and his wife Lisa after getting married. They receive an anonymous gift, a ventriloquist doll named Billy, which Jamie goes out. Well, they start goofing around with his wife starts to goof out with the dummy, calling it, "Oh, you adopted us a baby." Which, of course, well, Jamie left the apartment to get their food, which is takeout dinner. Lisa, by herself, starts to hear strange voices. She puts Billy in the bed, like usual. Well, actually, he puts him like in the bed or the chair. I can't remember. Soon after, she was attacked. And guess what? Sorry. Gotta do that. Here's the fucked up part, which I'm not gonna reveal until we get to the end. So yeah. Jamie comes back, everything is dark. That's when he hears Lisa's voice, and he found her, it's like she's hiding under the cupboard. And when he removed the cupboard, she's dead because she was murdered. Soon after, Jamie's in the police station being interrogated by this. Tell you the truth, this cop is a bit full of himself. Detective Jim Lipton, due to lack of evidence, where Jamie. So back at Jamie returns home. Well, there's still the police tape, which yeah, you can't cross here. So, but who cares? This place. Soon after, Jamie sees Billy. That's when Jamie looks in the box. Nothing until he knows there's a strange inscription under the cloth inside the interior. So he rips it up and knows it's actually a poster of Mary Shaw and Billy propaganda during Raven's Fair, which leaves Jamie back to his old hometown of Raven's Fair, now a ghost town. Literally deliberate, closed down stores, you name it. So when he returns to his home, which is a manor, belonged to his father. Now, at you. Going back to his father, which, of course, Edward Ashton, who's a stern type, when Jamie returns, knocks on the door, he meets another woman that he never knew until he found out this is his new stepmother, where Jamie here's his father, which turns out, due to a stroke he had like months ago, he's now in a wheelchair. Which, of course, yeah, not even Jane knew because, well, face it, they have nothing to talk about since they have a rocky relationship. He heard about the death of his wife, he wants help. That's when he came to ask about the poem, which even Elsa knew as well. The poem I said in the beginning of the video, beware the Sarah Mary Shaw, you know that. Which it was supposed to be told by kids so they behave. Of course, he believed that Mary Shaw did exist, of course, local superstition, of course. Soon, Jamie is about to leave, but his father wants him to stay, but Jamie said no, of course. That's when Elsa keeps explaining. That's when Jamie tells him the history of his marriage. Like his first mom, what happened to his real mom, the first wife of Edward, that she killed herself. Then his second wife was lucky to leave, which he passed by paintings of him and his dad. There are two are empty. I think one was his mom before she committed suicide. Then his second mother left before that painting was ever done. And then we see the final one where we see Edward and Elsa. Elsa sitting in the chair next to Edward standing, which I believe this was before. Soon, Jamie checks in a motel. Oh boy. Of course, try to get some sleep. Back at the funeral home, we meet Henry, who is the owner, and of course his senile wife, Marion. Warren's knows something up. Well, that's when Henry opens the body bag. That's when he sees what actually happened to Lisa, which freaks him out. Which, of course, this will be part of the story. Pulls out an old camera and but he knows something under there's a crawl space inside the mortuary where the embalming is. Found his senile wife in there because she knows who done it. He gets her out and he takes the phone. The funeral starts, which, of course, when Jamie walks around the graveyard, he sees Marion again. This time, she points to a specific grave, which turns out to be the grave of Mary Shaw. He looks behind the grave, and it turns out he raced back to the apartment, back to the motel, looking at Billy. He has a number on his shit. I forgot what number he is. Number 10, I think. That night, he drove to the cemetery and passed by Mary Shaw's grave. There's a bunch of tiny graves, believed to be the graves of the dolls that she's buried with. All dolls. Soon he digged up the tomb. When you look around, turns out he finds Billy's grave. It's kind of weird that dummy has a grave, but hey. So he digs up. The coffin's empty. He puts Billy back in, and somehow, when he's about to put the lid back, Billy's head turns around. Just creepily, right there. And everything's dead silent. Quiet as a grave. So Jamie shuts the lid. Puts back the dirt. Sorry. As he drives by the car, he knows everything is quiet. No sound. Nothing. That's when he was in the car. Billy disappears. Jamie gets out of the car, tries to look for him. He's nowhere to find. He drives off. Soon, when he returns back to the motel, he was watching up until Billy reappears. And guess who? And no, he didn't walk by himself. He's actually been dug up by this idiot detective, thinking that James getting rid of evidence. Which Jamie explains that Billy actually belongs there because he was dug up, which he tries to explain, which the detective being an a-hole, thinking Jamie's the murderer. Soon after, turns out, when he leaves, he also takes the dummy with him, and guess where he's staying? Right next door to him. Next morning, the detective leaves, and of course, it's kind of weird because you leave your motel room door open. And Jamie just walked right in, grabs the dummy, that's it. So he went back to Henry's mortuary, where he asks Marin questions until Henry sees Jamie with the dummy, with Billy. That's when he recognizes Billy. You shouldn't have that. That's when he started questioning about Mary Shaw, which he tells him not to say her name out loud. It's kind of like saying Voldemort's name. He should not be named. But it's kind of similar. Soon, Henry starts to explain the story of Mary Shaw, that when he was a boy, there was a famous theater called out of Lost Lake, the Grand... Fuck. Can't remember the name of the theater. Shit. The Grand Theater of Raymond's Fair, where when Henry was a boy, he went there only once during a performance of Mary Shaw, where she was bringing Billy, which turns out when she opens his box, he's not there, but lucky for her talents, she throws her voice, making Billy that he's hiding in the crowd, where the spotlight, which she points Henry. Henry looks under his chair. Billy's right there. He says, "He's here! Could you bring him to me? Good boy." And Billy... Okay, this is the freaky part, because that's when "What do you say, Billy?" "Thank you, Henry." "Is that right, young man? Is your name Henry?" Henry just nodded yes. That's just creepy, right? How does he know his name? Like, in marriage, Billy, she says, "Looks like one of my boys has his eye on you." Which, of course, begins the act, a comedy act between she and Billy, until a little boy, Miss, tries to be a skeptic and calls her out for moving her lips, which everybody tells him to shut up, literally. And Marriage is like saying, "Who the fuck said that?" No, that's what she says. Who said that? Because you better say the F-bomb right at him, chum. Where's the little kid trying to be a doubter, trying to double down on what he said? That's when she starts a more different performance, when Billy's arguing with her that he's real, and he wants to prove it. But she tells Billy that the show must go on, and there will always be doubters, but Billy keeps fighting between Mary, and they both do a double fight until everybody applauses. That's when Mary looks at the young boy with a stern look, say, "Now, who's the dummy?" Soon after, that boy disappeared, and no one knows what happened, but they knew they only had one suspect, and it was Mary. And soon after, she was found dead, which no one knows how. Soon, her body was brought to his father's mortuary, who was the original owner of the funeral, where he's now in charge. Yet she has one last request. Not only she wants to be buried with her dolls, she wants to become one herself. And one stormy night, Henry, out of curiosity, enters the mortuary, sees the coffin open where Mary is. He climbs up, wants to take a peek. Somehow he lost his balance, knocks the coffin over. With a flash of lightning, sees what Mary looks like now, like a dummy. Literally, her eyes staring at him, glass eyes. I think like the type of mouth the dummies have, when they move like that. Soon, Henry, with fright, freaks out. That's when he knows, when the lightning flashes again, her body's not there. That's when he looks up. She's actually standing up with her mouth open, gliding closer and closer, and Henry covering his mouth, thinking she's gonna get him. But that's when his dad comes in, turns the light on. Mary's right back in the floor, and he sees Henry right there, freaked out, and asks him if he's okay. Well, no shit. If you ever see a corpse walk trying to get you, what do you expect? Soon after she was buried, strange things started to happen. One by one, families start to lose their tongues, literally. Photographed in found in groups, like in a family photo. All of them were at their tongues, one by one. Then he shows a photo of Lisa, making her the last one. Jimmy got pissed off, asking why he had to take these photos, which Henry replies, it's just part of his job. And he asks, and Jamie asks Henry, who would dig her up? Dig the dummy up. Say, no one would. Saying that no one dares to go near her grave, let alone speak her name. Which, of course, say the quote, nothing stops until her screaming stops. Soon after, he had curiosity, he asks if the feeder is still there. Which, of course, he is, so he goes to the feeder. What's left of it, since it's in the middle of a lake, left abandoned. As he arrived at the old feeder, the bridge that once connected the feeder is long gone. It's now abandoned. So he takes a small boat and rolls over there. Because Mary Shaw used to live in the theater. So he enters the theater. Now this looks like abandoned. The chandelier crack, everything. He has to climb into a catwalk, which of course that's just creepy because you're walking on a catwalk that is loose and dangerous. So he manages to find Mary's room, where he finds most of her stuff, including old dolls. He even finds a scrapbook what she uses for her designs of each dummy, everything. If you've seen the opening credit of Dead Silent, you see like a montage of her creating Billy, including a famous quote on what's the description for ventriloquist, which is actually pretty cool. But yeah, back to the credit. That's when, as Jamie looks through the newspaper clip of this spring boy, it turns out the boy is actually a great granduncle of his. And it's an ancestor, a relative of his. Somehow, there's has to be something connecting his family and Mary Shaw. Yeah. When he looks in the mirror, he sees a reflection of Mary with her throat cut. Turns around, nothing there. He leaves, heads back to his home, where he enters the house. He sees his dad and his stepmother eating, which of course he tries to complain the soup. That's when he confronts his dad about what does his family have to do with Mary Shaw's death, explaining about Michael Ashton, who is his great granduncle. That's when his dad explains the story where his great granduncle, Michael Ashton, disappeared. Never to see again. We get to see a flashback of a hunt trying to find him. That's when, since the family is rich and powerful, they only have one suspect, Mary Shaw, so they had a mob run into her room, grab her, and force her to scream and cut off her tongue. Which, of course, yeah. That's when things didn't get better. After that, her spirits went seeking revenge, and one by one, killing everybody who was responsible for her death. Which, Jamie asked why she went after Lisa, and it turns out spirits have long memories, so even though you're far, you cannot escape from their justice. And that's what happened, saying that his family was responsible for her death. As he's about to leave, the detective shows up, which Jamie had no time. That's when the detective starts to get a little hostile when he asks about the dummy and also his brother and sisters, which Jamie doesn't know what he's talking about. And it turns out, which of course the detective was digging up all the graves of the dolls, which, fuck murder. He's grave robbing. He's disturbing a grave. So technically he's destruction of a whiffle of a tomb. So he should be charged with destroying a tomb. That's when it turns out all his brothers and sisters are not there. They've all been dug up and believes Jamie's responsible, which is kind of bullshit, really. You think he's the one who buried them? Well, that's weird. Soon, he about to threaten him to arrest him before Jamie pushes him and escapes, races back to, which, of course, back at the funeral home, Henry was checking everything until he hears his wife talking to somebody. It turns out to be Billy. After that, he tells his wife not to talk to the dummy, which, of course, he's going to plan to bury Billy back in the grave. He hears his wife crying after, what do you expect? He apologizes to her, but he's trying to find her until he enters the crawl space. He gets something closes the door behind him. He couldn't escape. That's when he noticed he's trying to flashlight. That's when he noticed something. A pale white hand, and he hears a familiar voice. "Hello, Henry." That's when he freaks out. He tells his wife to open the door immediately. Soon after, he turns around, sees Mary. He screams. Mary rips his tongue, which she opens her mouth. You see a whole collection of tongues. Literally, remember, they cut her own tongue, so she has a collection of tongues so she can switch different voices. Now she has Henry's voice, and the door opens. Bah! Falls Henry's body with his mouth wide open, with no tongue. With a shocking look on his face. Back what I was saying with Jamie, heading back to the theater because he's received a call from Henry about evidence that proves that he's innocent, which he went back to the theater looking for Henry. That's when the detective shows up with a shotgun and about to arrest him, demanding that he's not here. But then, strangely, Henry said, "Oh, he's here." Which, of course, his friend Jimmy is saying, "If you say I told you so, I will shoot you." Soon they both trying to find out where is he until Jamie knows something in the wall by the wind pattern of the cobwebs. That's when he walks closely. That's when he told him, "Remember not to scream," and disappears. Turns out there's a hidden room behind a wall, which looks pretty neat because it's like you usually see one wall, but when you walk closely, that's actually another room behind, right next to the wall. So it's like an illusion. Soon they arrive in a hidden room. Looks like a workshop, where they see. Well, that's when the detective saw a doll. They, if I see one of these, he throws it. And a whole, looks like a sheet falls down, and you see we're all in there. Were the missing dolls from that he was looking for in the graves. All of them, all there in their cases. Except for one, Billy. Soon they find another one under a tarp, which looks like, at first, they thought it was actually a dummy until they realized it is not a dummy. It's a boy. Of course, when the detective looked closely, somehow Jamie just pulled the string, makes the boy's head move. You see, he's a rotting corpse turned into a dummy, which turns out to be Michael Ashton. Somehow, Mary Shaw turned him into a dummy, a puppet, literally, as revenge for what he said. Which, of course, that's when they notice something weird. That's when they notice the dummies, the puppets' heads start to move to the left, like, and they're looking at a clown dummy. That's when Jamie says, "Mary Shaw." The rocket chair stops. The clown's eyes open and say, "Clever." That's when he asks Mary Shaw about why everything. That's when she says, "It's hard to construct the perfect doll. Sometimes you need existing parts." Which we get to see a flashback of, looks like Mary having a tea party with one of the dolls, including Billy. And guess who's out there? Michael Ashton's dead body, now turned into a doll. Which we see, remember, she can throw his voice. So yeah, it's like, "I love you, mommy." Which we can see from compared to what he was like back then to now. That's when she asks, that's when why? It's to silence those who silence me. That's when he asks, "Why my wife? Why you took her away from me?" And that's why she tells them to come closer and she'll tell you. As he did, she whispers, "You weren't the last Ashton. The last Ashton was inside her." Meaning, Lisa was pregnant. Renata said about the surprise? Yeah. Turns out, she murdered her because she was pregnant with the next Ashton. So, Soon, she licks Jamie with that massive tongue. You actually see the whole. It's actually a long tongue, literally. It's like pieces of tongue one by one. Through the dummy's mouth and back of his head, you see Mary right there. Soon, the guy shot the dummy with the shotgun, destroying it. But that didn't work because that's when Jamie knows one of the dummies' turn, and his eyes started turning green. Yeah, it turns out Mary can possess the other dolls because the dolls are actually in her control. That's one by one. They try to destroy every doll. That's when James decides to throw a kerosene lamp right at the shelf and let it burn. They tried this. They even shot Michael Ashton's body because he's also a doll as well. Soon they both escaped with Mary on their trail. Soon after, due to the weight limit, the catwalk collapses. The detective screamed. Mary grabs him. Right into a curtain. He comes right back out with no tongue. Falls dead. That's when Jamie sees Mary. Jamie falls, but covers his mouth in time. Falls through the floorboard into the water below, where he manages to escape. He escapes out of the theater, but until he realizes there's one doll left. It's Billy. We see the theater now burning to the ground. He remembers that Billy's actually at the funeral home. He goes back to the funeral home until he sees what happens to Henry, now dead. That's when Marin explains that that Jamie's dad came and took the doll, which Janet said that's impossible because his dad's in a wheelchair. But no, she says Mr. Ashton took the doll back to home. Soon, Jamie races back home. Lightning strikes. That's when he's trying to call his dad. Soon after, he reaches to a room where his dad supposed to be and finds Billy in a baby crib. Soon after, Mary bursts out of the window screaming. Jamie collapses, knocking Billy over, grabs Billy as Mary tries to grab him. He throws Billy in the fireplace, destroying him and causing Mary to disappear. Soon after everything was over, he sees his dad right there. That's when he tried to call his dad. He's not moving. That's when he pokes him, he collapses and revealing a terrifying truth. He's actually dead and being controlled like a dummy. And guess who it was? Elsa. Then a flashback appears where she was controlling him the whole time. Literally, controlling his mouth, everything. You see a cavity in his back. No spine, nothing. That's why even when he's eating, he has like a tube that when he gives him food, it goes right into a bowl under, I don't know where his stomach used to be. While he was looking at his scrapbook, there was a quote saying, "the perfect doll." Which he flips, it's Elsa's face. He turns around, sees Elsa, and she says, "Now, who's the dummy?" Which lightning strikes, you see Mary's face, half of her face, where James screams, "No!" before Mary rips his tongue. So we get looks like a scrapbook, like a photo, where Jamie's seen the poem, "Beware the stare of Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls. And if you ever see her in your dreams, make sure you never ever scream." Which shows a scrapbook of everybody who was killed by Mary, including Henry, the detective Lipton, Jamie, his dad, and the one who's and Elsa being the only actual human doll. So we see Mary closing the scrapbook. And that was dead silent, and damn. This was a trippy one, I tell you what. But them back then, when it came out in 2007, it didn't win well because it was a film before its time. And if it was released a bit later, like something like, example, like The Woman in Black, around that era, oh boy, it would make some good money in the box office. But around 2007, no. And I was in 5th grade when this movie came out back in 2007. So that was a long time ago. Let me see. Nope, scratch that 4th grade. This came out in March 16th of 2007. I was like in the 4th grade when this came out. Wow. But yeah, it's a pity. They never re-released this movie in theaters. They give it the right time because, come on. This is a good movie. And it's like a ghost story. Like every town has like its own ghost story and folklore. This one deserves more love, and I see like people actually like this film. But yeah, let me know what you think about Dead Silent and if you liked it. And what was your favorite scene? Because me, the one thing I like is the damn poem of Mary Shaw, which of course I think every town has a famous ghost story with a famed poem or story. And it's kind of interesting. They actually use I like how the color style of the movie. You know, the backgrounds, the atmosphere is more grayish, monocolor right there. That goes an old horror film, ghost film. And I like how they use the old Universal logo in the opening credit. That was pretty cool. But yeah, let me know what you think of the movie, and if you liked it, tell me what was your favorite scene. And also, if you like this video, give it a like to the video. That'd be awesome. And if you're new to the channel, remember to subscribe, hit the bell. And remember, our goal is to hit 1 million subscribers. So let's do this. And I'll see you next time. See ya. But first, I'm about to go nuts right now. While seeing the poem again. Remember the stare Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls. And if you see her in your dreams, make sure you never, ever scream. Whoops. Gotta go.